Hey everyone, this is Daniel from Couch Potato Camping. Today we're going to show you an install of an RV lock on our new 2021 Sol Horizon. In the past, on a previous RV that we owned, we installed a very similar lock from RVLock, and we really enjoyed using this lock. So as you can see here, this is the standard lock that came with our trailer. It's a pretty typical industry standard lock. Be sure to validate what type of screws are holding in your RV lock. In our case, it is a square head type screw. Now, as you'll see, what I did here is I lightly unscrewed each of the 4 screws. I did not completely unscrew the screws and pull each of them out. This way it holds the lock in place while you're in the process of fully removing the lock. Once you've pulled out all 4 screws, be sure to hang on to the interior face of the lock. This way it doesn't fall out and land on the floor or the ground and scratch it up and mess it up. Next, what you want to do is pull off the back face of the RV lock, and that'll expose the inner workings of the lock and the front half that is still attached to the front of the exterior door. Next, you want to take off the cover plate at the location of the door strike. If necessary, take a flathead screwdriver to pry off the cover plate. In my case, there was a little bit of silicone sealant behind this cover plate, and that's why I needed a flathead screwdriver to gently pry it off and just encourage it to come off. Once you've removed the strike plate, you can close the door and come to the exterior or the front side of the door. To remove the lock, simply grab the exterior handle and gently begin to pull it out and away from the RV door. You might need to slightly shimmy the lock around and out of the existing opening. Once you completely remove the existing lock, you may see that there's some existing residue or sealant left around the existing opening. Simply take a cleaner, or if need be, some Goo Gone, and gently clean that off. Now that your old lock is out, take the front or exterior plate of the new lock and begin to reinsert it back into the existing opening in a very similar fashion as you did when you removed the existing lock. Be sure to tuck in any wires and make sure that they feed through the existing door opening. Once you have the new front plate of the lock installed into the existing lock opening, be sure and pull through any of the wires connected to the new faceplate of the RV lock. Once you have the new faceplate of the new RV lock situated in the opening, take the new back plate of the RV lock and connect the 2 wires. At this point, you're ready to marry the back plate of the new RV lock to the new RV lock front faceplate. As you're doing that, be sure to neatly tuck in the wiring that connects the 2 halves and gently place it in between the opening of the 2. Be sure not to pinch any wires and make sure the connection does not get damaged in this process. Once you've tucked the wire harness into the existing opening of the door, begin to align the interior deadbolt and the interior lock release handle with the 2 components on the front half of the RV lock. This may take some finicking around with each of these to make sure that they align right. And essentially, for both of these, there's only essentially one way that these 2 can line up together and work properly. Once you have the deadbolt mechanism and the door release mechanism aligned, you can begin to install the factory provided screws. Now, in my case, what I did is I just put in the screw enough so that it would hold the 2 halves together and it would keep the alignment of the deadbolt and the lock release hatch together. At this point, I would suggest not completely tightening the screws of the 2 halves of the new RV lock. This way it gives you the opportunity to finagle and finesse the alignment of the new RV lock within the existing door opening. Once you have the 4 new screws installed, I would suggest trying several times to make sure the new deadbolt and the interior door lock release latch work. As you're adjusting the alignment of the new RV lock, this validates that the 2 mechanisms are still working prior to the final install and the final tightening of the screws. Next, you want to install the RV lock provided cover plate on the door jamb. Again, what I did is I simply installed the screws just enough to hold it in place and then adjusted the alignment of the faceplate as required. I would suggest adjusting the faceplate and cover plate so that it does not impede the operation of the new deadbolt and the door latch itself. Once you have all the alignment of the new lock in place, now you can go back and tighten all 4 screws of the new RV lock. At this point, it should be noted that our RVLock came with 4 AA batteries already installed from the factory. I went ahead and removed the faceplate here of the batteries and reinstalled with new batteries just in case the lock had been sitting in a warehouse for some time, and that would ensure that I have 4 brand new batteries in my lock. While we're looking at the interior faceplate of the new RVLock, you will see 3 buttons on the lower left side. One is an on-off switch, which is kind of a master switch for the batteries and the lock, which you can turn on and off as needed. The top hole is a reset button that you may need to utilize when you're resetting the factory provided code. The middle button is a fob sync button that you'll need to depress when you're syncing this lock with your factory provided fob. We will get to that shortly. Once you have the lock installed, make sure it is turned on. Now close the door and stand on the exterior of your RV with the new lock installed. Here you want to check and make sure that your new RVLock is operating properly by using the various forms and means to lock the lock. For example, you want to check the factory provided locking code. You also want to check the new keys provided with the RVLock with the door open to make sure that the locking function with the keys operation works properly. To sync your fob with your new RVLock, make sure that your lock is turned on the inside of the faceplate. While depressing the fob learn button on the inside, at the same time press and release the lock button on your remote until 2 or 3 clicks occur and a long beep. After you have received the long confirming beep, try out your RV fob lock with the door open to make sure that it does work prior to closing the door. Next, you're going to want to reprogram your lock's keypad. The lock comes installed with a simple 1, 2, 3, 4 lock code from the factory. We highly suggest that you reprogram your RVLock code to something that's more personal to you. This code needs to be a 4 to 6 digit number code. To begin reprogramming your lock code, on the outside, hold down the number 8 button and the lock button at the same time. You will then hear a long beep which signifies that you are in a reset mode. Immediately after that, input the factory provided code, which in our case was 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit lock. Then quickly, after that, press in your new code twice, depressing the lock button after each new code insertion. It should be noted that you only have 10 seconds to input your new code. As you will see, as I'm reprogramming our new lock with our new code, I didn't do it fast enough, so it took me a few tries. I would do it as quickly as possible, so put in the factory code 1, 2, 3, 4 lock, put in your new code, then hit lock, then put in your new code again, and then hit lock. And if you do that within a 8 to 10 second period, you'll get a long confirming beep from the lock. Once you have reprogrammed your new lock with your new code, I would suggest leaving the door open and trying out all 3 different types of locking mechanisms prior to closing the door. It should be noted that we are not sponsored by RVLock. We actually bought this lock on our own, and we're just sharing this install video with you as we truly believe in this product. So there you have it, folks. That is the install of our new RVLock in our new trailer. If you have any questions or need additional input from RVLock, please feel free to visit their website at rvlock.com. There you can get additional instructions and questions answered, as well as tutorial videos that they provide. And as always, thank you. Please like and subscribe this video if you enjoy this type of content. We will be providing this type of content and more in the future.